My brother and his wife stayed in my home rent-free for years. While I was away, they went ahead with a renovation without permission. Imagine this. You offer your own flesh and blood a free place to live, sacrifice everything to fix it up, only for them to secretly gut renovate your property, then hand you a $100,000 bill and call you stingy for refusing to pay. What would you do then? Because that's exactly what my brother and his wife did to me. There's a special kind of betrayal only family can deliver. The kind that cuts so deep because it's wrapped in years of shared history and supposed love. For me, that lesson in familial treachery came in the form of a 2-story duplex on the east side of town. It wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was my declaration of independence, my nest egg. Proof that I, a woman who always felt like she was scrambling to make ends meet, could build something solid. I bought it 5 years ago. The paint was peeling, the plumbing questionable, and the garden looked like a science experiment gone wrong. But it had good bones. I saw the potential. I also saw my younger brother, Kai, struggling. He'd just married Jordan, and they were living in a cramped, overpriced apartment, barely making ends meet with his part-time gigs and her. Well, Jordan mostly focused on her social media influencing aspirations, which hadn't quite taken off. "It's perfect," Kai had gushed when I first showed him the duplex. "Still a mess, but mine." "You're amazing." "The upstairs unit is self-contained," I told him, already formulating the offer in my head. 2 bedrooms, decent kitchen space, once I fix it up. "Why don't you and Jordan move in? No rent. Just cover your own utilities. Get on your feet. Save up a deposit for your own place." Kai's eyes had welled up. "You do that? Really?" Jordan, standing beside him, managed a tight smile, and "That's very generous, Alina." Even then, her gratitude felt a little strained, a little too polite. But I brushed it off. Kai was my brother. I wanted to help. So they moved in. I lived in my own tiny rental across town, pouring every spare cent and moment into renovating their unit first, then the downstairs one, which I planned to rent out to cover the mortgage. I worked double shifts at the restaurant, took on freelance graphic design projects that had me staring at a screen until 3 a.m. My diet consisted of coffee and determination. New clothes, a vacation, those were luxuries for a different lifetime. The duplex was my priority, my sacrifice. The first year they were great. Kai would sometimes help with the heavy lifting on my renovation days for the downstairs unit. Jordan would occasionally bring me a glass of lemonade, complimenting my progress with wide, seemingly sincere eyes. "You're making it so beautiful, Alina. We're so lucky." But slowly things began to shift. It was subtle at first. After I finished the downstairs unit and got good tenants, the mortgage was covered, but property taxes and maintenance were still a beast. One summer, their air conditioner broke. It was an older unit, sure, but I suspected it had been run nonstop at Arctic temperatures. "Alina," Jordan had called, her voice breezy, "the AC's dead. It's like an oven up here. When can you get it fixed?" "Oh, that's not good," I'd said, already calculating the cost. "Did you try resetting the breaker or checking the filter?" A pause. "No, that sounds complicated. It's your unit. So we figured you'd handle it." I bit back a sigh. "Okay, I'll call a repairman." It cost me $600 I didn't really have. They didn't offer to chip in. When I gently suggested they could be a bit more mindful, Jordan looked affronted. "We pay our utilities, Alina. We should be able to be comfortable." Then there was the time Kai mentioned they were thinking of getting a dog. A big one. In my newly renovated unit with its freshly polished original hardwood floors. "A dog?" I'd asked, trying to keep my voice even. "Kai, we talked about this. The lease agreement for the other tenants is no pets, and I'd prefer to keep it consistent, plus the potential for damage." "Oh, come on, Alina," he'd wheedled. "It's practically our home. Jordan's always wanted a golden retriever." "It is my home, Kai, my investment, and the answer is no, not right now." He sulked for a week, and Jordan was icily polite the next time I saw her. Life has a way of just happening. I got busier with my own career, slowly climbing the ladder at a marketing firm. The tenants downstairs were quiet and paid on time. Kai and Jordan seemed settled. I dropped by for holidays, birthdays, quick texts. Everything good? I'd ask Kai. Yep. All quiet here, sis, he'd reply. He was always cheerful, if a bit vague. Jordan rarely initiated contact. I figured they were just living their lives, hopefully saving money, making plans. I trusted them. Maybe I was naive. Maybe I was just too exhausted from building my own life to scrutinize theirs too closely. It had been a few months since I'd last dropped by. With a rare Saturday off, I figured, why not? I grabbed a coffee and headed over, a little niggle of something I couldn't name sitting in my stomach. The niggle grew as I pulled up to the duplex. From the outside, everything looked the same. My sensible, slightly faded blue paint job. The neat, if uninspired, flower beds I'd planted. I walked up the steps to their unit and noticed the front door was ajar. Just a crack. That was unusual. Kai was usually so particular about locking up. I could hear noises from inside, a rhythmic thumping and a low hum, like some kind of industrial fan. Not sounds I associated with my brother's usual weekend routine of video games and napping. Kai? Jordan? I called out, pushing the door open a little further. The sight that greeted me stopped me dead in my tracks. My coffee cup slipped from my fingers, splashing lukewarm liquid down my jeans. The entire front living area was different. Walls had been moved. Where my cozy, slightly worn, but perfectly functional kitchen once stood, there was now an open-plan monstrosity. Gleaming white cabinets reached to the ceiling, accented with brushed gold hardware. A massive island topped with a slab of what looked suspiciously like Carrara marble dominated the center of the room. Stainless steel appliances, the kind with digital displays and price tags that made my eyes water, were built into custom cabinetry. It looked like something out of a glossy magazine, a style so far removed from my own practical taste. It was almost comical. I stumbled forward, my mind struggling to process. The thumping was coming from further back. I walked, as if in a dream, past the alien kitchen toward the main bathroom. The door was open. More marble. A freestanding soaking tub I knew, for a fact, cost more than my first car. A rainfall shower had the size of a dinner plate. Oh good, you're here. Jordan's voice, bright and cheerful, cut through my daze. She emerged from the master bedroom, not in her usual yoga pants and oversized hoodie, but in a stylish linen jumpsuit, her hair perfectly coiffed. She was beaming, a wide, self-satisfied smile plastered on her face. She held a sleek, leather-bound folder in her hands. What is all this? I managed, my voice barely a whisper. Surprise, she chirped, gesturing around with a flourish. We knew you've been so busy, Alina, and this place was just, well, it was a bit dated, wasn't it? So, Kai and I decided to take the initiative. A little refresh? This was a gut job. A six-figure, top to bottom, no expense spared demolition and reconstruction. She stepped closer, her smile unwavering, and pressed the folder into my numb hands. Here are all the invoices. We kept meticulous records. It came in just under $100,000. Not bad, right? For a full high-end remodel. I stared at her, speechless. You can afford it, Alina, she continued, her tone now slightly patronizing, as if explaining something to a slow child. And it's your house anyway. It needed an update. Think of the equity. Kai chose that moment to shuffle in from the hallway, looking sheepish but also expectant. He wouldn't quite meet my eye. What have you done? I finally found my voice, which came out hoarse. We've improved your investment, Alina, she said, puffing up slightly. You should be thanking us. Thanking you. I repeated, the words catching in my throat. The shock was starting to wear off, replaced by a wave of icy fury that began in my toes and rose, chilling me to the bone. You spent nearly $100,000 on unauthorized renovations in my house, and you expect me to thank you and pay for it? Kai finally spoke, his voice defensive. Well, yeah, it's your property. It benefits you in the long run. Don't be so stingy, Alina. We did all the hard work of managing the contractors and picking everything out. Stingy. After 5 years of rent-free living, After I'd sacrificed and saved to give them a leg up, the audacity was a physical blow. I could feel the blood draining from my face, then rushing back with a heat that made my ears burn. I looked from Kai's evasive face to Jordan's smug, confident one. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rage. I wanted to throw that ridiculously expensive marble-topped island through the brand-new picture window. Instead, a strange calm descended. A very cold, very clear calm. I closed my mouth, took a slow breath, and looked down at the folder in my hands. I didn't open it. "I see," I said, my voice devoid of any emotion I was actually feeling. "I need to process this." Jordan, seeing my stunned silence, added with a condescending smile, "We even picked out finishes we knew you'd love eventually. Consider it our gift to your portfolio." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated move. A deliberate, entitled, breathtakingly arrogant heist. "I have to go," I said quietly, turning on my heel. I walked out, leaving them standing in the opulent ruin of what used to be my sensible, carefully managed investment property. The smell of fresh paint and new grout followed me out the door, smelling like betrayal. The drive back to my own small, slightly cluttered apartment was a blur. The cold, come I'd managed a project in front of Kai, and Jordan shattered the moment I closed my front door behind me. I sank onto my sofa, the leather folder still clutched in my hand, and the numbness gave way to a tremor that started in my hands and spread through my whole body. Betrayal. It was a raw, physical ache in my chest. I replayed the scene over and over. Jordan's beaming face, Kai's mumbled accusation of me being stingy, the sheer, unadulterated gall of it. They hadn't just crossed a line. They'd bulldozed it, paved it over with marble, and sent me the bill. How could they think this was okay? How could Kai, my own brother, stand by and let this happen, even participate? The hurt was a sharp, jagged thing. 5 years. 5 years I'd given them a home, a chance to build their future. And this was how they repaid me. Then a different thought began to surface through the pain. This wasn't impulsive. That level of renovation, the contractors, the specific high-end choices, it had to have been planned meticulously. I remembered an offhand comment Jordan had made months ago during a rare family dinner. "We're just bursting at the seams in that little kitchen," she'd sighed dramatically, swirling her wine. "It's impossible to entertain properly." At the time, I dismissed it as typical Jordan hyperbole. Now it felt like a breadcrumb. I grabbed my laptop. Jordan was obsessed with her online image, but her public social media was all carefully curated lifestyle shots. Nothing that would reveal a major renovation in a home that wasn't technically hers to renovate. Then I remembered Kai mentioning, with a roll of his eyes, Jordan's endless vision boards and digital scrapbooks. She used one of those cloud storage services with the cutesy animal logo. It was a long shot, a desperate, ethically murky stab in the dark. I knew their wedding anniversary. I knew the name of the fluffy white cat Snowball that Jordan doted on and that I'd expressly forbidden in the unit. A rule, clearly ignored. I tried a few combinations. Anniversary date plus Snowball. Snowball plus anniversary. Then Snowball followed by their wedding year. Bingo, I was in. My heart hammered against my ribs. A folder list appeared. Most were innocuous. Vacation ideas, recipe collections, influencer collabs, dreaming. And then there it was, our dream home project. My breath hitched. I clicked it open. It was all there. Subfolders meticulously organized. Kitchen inspiration, bathroom finishes, contractor quotes. There were invoices, dozens of them, already paid from an account I didn't recognize. Probably joint savings they'd been siphoning into this instead of, say, a down payment on their own place. There were architectural drawings, detailed plans for my duplex unit, transforming it into their palace. And then the final damning piece of evidence, an email draft in a subfolder titled Comms. It was addressed to one of the main contractors, dated 6 months prior. It was from Jordan regarding payment. It read, "Asterisk, we will be managing the initial deposits. The final balance will be settled by the property owner, my sister-in-law, Alina, once the project is complete and she is presented with the full scope of the value-adding upgrade. She's very supportive of us making the space our own. Asterisk supportive. Value-adding upgrade. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. They hadn't just overstepped. They hadn't just been thoughtless or entitled. They had actively, deliberately, and with months of premeditation, conspired to defraud me. They'd planned to spring this on me, counting on my shock, my desire to avoid family conflict, or perhaps my supposed wealth, to bully me into paying for their fantasy. The hurt didn't disappear, but it was now overlaid with something else, a cold, hard fury, a steely resolve that settled deep in my bones. They wanted to play me for a fool. They thought I'd just roll over. I picked up my phone, my fingers surprisingly steady as I dialed. "Amara," I said when my best friend answered, "you are not going to believe what just happened." I laid it all out. The surprise visit, the marble monstrosity, the folder of bills, Kai's accusation. Amara listened, punctuated by gasps and horrified silences. "No freaking way," she breathed when I finished. "Alina, that's grand larceny with a side of delusion." "Tell me about it," I said, the cold anger making my voice flat. "And I found their plans, Amara. Online. They've been plotting this for at least 6 months." "Okay, deep breaths," Amara said, her voice instantly shifting into practical, supportive mode. "First, you are not paying a single cent. Not one. Second, you need a lawyer. Like yesterday." "I know," I said. The thought had already begun to form. "I know a guy," said Amara. "Stephen Norris. He's a shark, but he's fair. Specializes in property and contract disputes. He'll eat them for breakfast." Staring at their secret plans, the betrayal was a fresh stab. They hadn't just overstepped. They'd conspired. My desire for simple repayment morphed into something colder, more calculated. They wanted to play games. Fine, I'd learn the rules. I booked an appointment with Stephen Norris for Monday morning. Stephen Norris's office was all sleek lines and muted tones, a stark contrast to the chaos raging inside me. He was a man in his late 40s, sharp eyes, sharper suit, and a handshake that meant business. I laid out the whole sordid tale, from my initial offer of a rent-free haven to the marble-clad ambush and the damning contents of Jordan's Dream Home Project folder, copies of which I had printed and brought with me. He listened intently, occasionally jotting down a note, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Miss Henderson," he began, his voice calm and measured, "your brother and sister-in-law have, to put it mildly, acted egregiously. They had no legal right to make alterations of that magnitude without your explicit written consent, and they certainly have no legal standing to demand you pay for said alterations." A small knot of tension I hadn't realized I was holding loosened in my chest. "So I don't have to pay?" "Absolutely not," Stephen confirmed. "In fact, you have several avenues here. You could sue them for the cost of restoring the property to its original condition, if that's what you wished. You could evict them for breach of your verbal tenancy agreement. Their unauthorized renovations constitute a significant breach." He paused. "Or you could explore other resolutions." The idea of simply evicting them and suing for damages was tempting. A quick, clean cut. But then I thought of Jordan's smug face, Kai's accusation. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the audacity, the sheer, unmitigated entitlement. "What kind of other resolutions?" I asked. Stephen's lips curved into a slight, almost imperceptible smile. "Well, they've significantly, if illegally, increased the value of your asset. We could certainly leverage that." I left his office an hour later, a plan beginning to take shape. A cold, satisfying counteroffensive. He'd given me clarity, and more importantly, a sense of control I hadn't felt since I'd walked into that renovated nightmare. Meanwhile, back in their marble palace, Kai and Jordan were clearly growing impatient. A few days after my visit, Jordan's text started. "Hey, Alina, just wondering about that reno payment? The contractor for the countertops is asking about the final installment. Let me know when you can transfer." The smiley face was particularly galling. I ignored it. 2 days later, another one. "Alina, Seriously, we need to get these bills paid. It's starting to get awkward. Can you at least give us a timeline? I continued to ignore them. Let them sweat. Let them wonder. Then photos started appearing on my cousin, Sarah's, social media feed. The caption read, "Housewarming kind of at Kai and Jordan's gorgeous new place. So jelly. Guess your new kitchen vibes are dream home." My jaw tightened. They were already showing it off, claiming it as their own, before I'd even agreed to foot the bill they'd fraudulently run up in my name. The nerve was boundless. Then came the call I'd been dreading, but also expecting. My mother. "Nancy." "Alina, darling," she began, her voice laced with that familiar tone of gentle persuasion she used when she wanted me to smooth over family ripples. "Kai called. He's very upset. He said there's been a misunderstanding about some work they did on the house." "A misunderstanding, Mom?" I kept my voice carefully neutral. "They gutted my property and expect me to pay $100,000 for renovations I never approved. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a demand." "Oh, Alina, don't be so dramatic," she sighed. "He said Jordan got a bit carried away, but their intentions were good. It does look lovely from what he described. Can't you just sort this out? It's family. Perhaps pay half, or work out a payment plan with them for peace's sake." I could hear Kai's one-sided, woe-is-me version of events echoing in her words. He'd conveniently left out the premeditated planning, the secret folders, the sheer scale of the deception. "Mom, there's more to this than Kai is telling you," I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. "I'm looking into it. I'll handle it." "Well, I hope so, dear. Family is too important to let silly things like money come between you." Silly things like money. Like $100,000 of my money they'd spent without my permission. I hung up, feeling a fresh wave of anger, not just at Kai and Jordan, but at the way my family always seemed to expect me to be the accommodating one, the one to absorb the costs, emotional or financial. The next day, another text from Jordan. This one took the cake. "Hey, so we were thinking since the main bath turned out so well, we should probably do the guest bathroom to match. Keep the flow, you know? What are your thoughts on a clawfoot tub? You'd love it. We found a great one. Only a few grand. Let me know if you want the link. XOXO." The sheer, unadulterated, gold-plated nerve of it almost made me laugh. Almost. They were already planning phase 2 of their hostile takeover of my finances and my property. They truly believed they were going to get away with it. They had no idea what was coming. The first step in my counteroffensive was to get an official valuation. On Stephen Norris's recommendation, I contacted Leah Jensen, a certified appraiser. I met her at a coffee shop near her office, not at the duplex. I didn't want Kai and Jordan getting wind of anything yet. "So the situation is a little unusual," I began, handing Leah a coffee. "My tenants, who are family, unfortunately, undertook extensive renovations without my consent. They're very high-end." Leah raised an eyebrow. "Unauthorized renovations? That's a messy one. Are we talking new paint, or something more substantial?" "Marble countertops, new layout, luxury appliances, the works," I said. "Professionally done from what I can tell, just entirely unapproved and unbudgeted by me." "I see," she said, tapping her pen on her notepad. "And you need an appraisal reflecting the current state of the property, including these additions." "Exactly," I confirmed. "As is. I need to know what it's worth now with all their improvements." Leah was discreet and efficient. She visited the property a few days later while Kai and Jordan were presumably at their respective day jobs, or, in Jordan's case, curating content. I'd given her a key. She called me that afternoon. "Well, Alina," Leah said, a note of surprise in her voice, "your tenants certainly have expensive taste, and they hired competent, if presumptuous, contractors. The workmanship is surprisingly good for an unauthorized job. The value of your property has increased significantly." She emailed me the official report later that day. The numbers were staggering. The duplex unit, with its unwanted but undeniably luxurious makeover, was now valued at nearly $150,000 more than I had paid for the building 5 years ago. My jaw tightened. They'd spent close to $100,000 of their money, and in doing so had gifted me a substantial bump in equity. The irony was almost painful, yet deeply satisfying. Armed with this concrete valuation, the next phase of my plan clicked into place. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Kai. His voice, when I answered, was dripping with a syrupy, unfamiliar remorse. Alina. Hey, sis, listen. I wanted to apologize about the house and everything. I waited, saying nothing. I could hear faint whispering in the background. Jordan, no doubt, coaching him. Jordan, well, she gets these ideas, and she just runs with them. She got a bit carried away. We both did. We're really sorry if it caused you any stress. Stress was one word for it. Financial ruin was another. We were thinking, he continued, the false sincerity practically oozing through the phone, maybe we could talk properly about the renovations? Maybe we can contribute a little something towards it. Help out with the cost. A little something. After they had presented me with a bill for $100,000, the whispering in the background got a little louder, more insistent. Jordan was clearly feeding him lines. This wasn't an apology. It was a pathetic attempt to gauge my reaction, to see if I was softening, to perhaps trick me into committing to pay something so they could claim I'd agreed. I almost laughed. Instead, I kept my voice cool, non-committal. Of course, Kai. We should definitely talk. It's a significant situation. Great, he said, relief evident in his tone. When are you free? We can come over to your place. Or actually, I interjected smoothly, why don't you both come over to the house next Saturday, say around 11 o'clock, and we can discuss its future? The house? Oh, yeah, sure. That works, he said, a little surprised. He probably expected me to be avoiding the scene of the crime. We'll be there. Perfect, I said. I'll see you both then. I hung up, a grim smile playing on my lips. They thought they were reeling me in. They had no idea they were swimming straight into the net. The next week was a flurry of activity. I met with Stephen Norris again. We went over the appraisal, the figures, the strategy. He was thorough, his legal mind dissecting every angle. By the end of our second meeting, we had 2 documents drafted, printed on crisp, official-looking paper. The first was a new lease agreement, a standard rental contract, but with one crucial difference: the monthly rent. It was calculated based on the current fair market value for a newly renovated luxury 2-bedroom unit in that neighborhood, a figure significantly higher than my mortgage, property taxes, and insurance combined. A figure I knew they couldn't possibly afford. The second document was an offer of sale, a straightforward proposal for them to purchase the unit from me. The price? The new, much higher, appraised value, reflecting all their hard work and investment. I placed both documents into a neat manila folder. I sent the calendar invite through email, meeting to discuss property matters. Simple, formal. Let them think they were about to get what they wanted. Let them walk in confident and smug, ready for me to finally cave. The anticipation was a tight coil in my stomach, but it wasn't anxiety. It was the thrill of the hunt. Saturday. Morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect backdrop for the storm I was about to unleash. I arrived at the duplex a good hour before Kai and Jordan were due, the manila folder heavy in my tote bag. I let myself into their unit, my unit, using the key I still had. The air still smelled faintly of new paint and expensive wood. I walked through the transformed space, my footsteps echoing on the light oak floors. The marble countertops gleamed under the recessed lighting. It was undeniably beautiful in a cold, showy kind of way, a monument to their audacity. I felt surprisingly calm. The weeks of anger, hurt, and meticulous planning had distilled into a cold, clear focus. I knew exactly what I was going to do, exactly what I was going to say. There was no room for doubt, no space for wavering. I made myself a cup of tea using their ridiculously high-tech kettle, the kind that could probably launch a rocket if you pressed the wrong button, and sat at the huge marble island. I arranged the documents from my folder neatly in front of me, waiting. At precisely 11 o'clock, I heard their car pull up, footsteps on the stairs, and a knock on the door they now treated as their own. "Come in," I called out, my voice even. Kai entered first, looking nervous, his eyes darting around as if expecting a trap. Jordan followed, and any nervousness she might have felt was expertly masked by that familiar, infuriatingly smug expression. She was dressed impeccably, of course, in some sort of cream-colored cashmere sweater and perfectly tailored trousers. She looked like she owned the place, which in her mind I suppose she did. "Alina." "Hi," Jordan chirped, her smile wide and a little too bright. "Thanks for having us over. So glad we can finally sort this all out." "Kai." "Jordan." I greeted them, my tone polite, almost bland. "Please have a seat." I gestured to the new bar stools, tucked under the island. They sat, Kai perching uneasily on the edge of his stool, Jordan settling in with an air of expectation. She glanced at the folder in front of me, a flicker of something triumphant in her eyes. She probably thought it contained a check, or at least a payment plan proposal heavily weighted in her favor. "Coffee," I offered, playing the gracious hostess in their stolen palace. "Oh no, thank you. We're fine," Jordan said, waving a dismissive hand. "We just had brunch." An awkward silence descended for a moment. I let it hang there, watching them. Kai fidgeted with the strap of his watch. Jordan examined her perfectly manicured nails. Finally, Jordan broke the silence, unable to resist guiding the conversation. "So," she began, leaning forward slightly, her voice conspiratorial. "This place, right? It's just amazing now. Don't you think? It finally feels like a real home." I met her gaze. "It's certainly different," I said, my voice carefully neutral. "Different in a good way," she pressed. "All the agents say kitchens and bathrooms sell houses, Alina. We've basically future-proofed your investment. That marble's Italian, and the appliances are all top of the line, energy efficient, too." She rattled off brand names and features as if she were a salesperson on commission. Kai chimed in, emboldened by Jordan's confidence. "Yeah, Alina, we put a lot of thought into it. A lot of work. Those contractors weren't easy to manage, let me tell you." I nodded slowly, letting them talk, letting them dig their own graves a little deeper. I even managed a small, non-committal sound of agreement when Jordan pointed out a particularly hideous and undoubtedly expensive light fixture they'd chosen. "Yes," I said when they finally paused for breath. "You've certainly put a lot of work into making it unique." The anticipation in the room was thick enough to spread on toast. They were practically vibrating with it, waiting for me to acknowledge their brilliance, their foresight, and most importantly, to open my checkbook. Jordan's smug smile was fixed in place. Kai looked like a kid waiting for a promised treat. I let a small, almost imperceptible smile play on my lips. "Well," I began, placing my hand on the manila folder, my fingers brushing against the crisp edges of the documents within. I paused, drawing out the moment, savoring the shift in the air as their expectant smiles wavered slightly, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. "I've given this a lot of thought," I continued, my voice calm and steady. "A great deal of thought, and I've made some decisions regarding the house and your substantial contributions to its value." I looked them both directly in the eye, first Kai, then Jordan, holding their gaze for a beat longer than comfortable. The air in the ridiculously opulent kitchen crackled. "First," I said, my voice even and cold, sliding a glossy, professionally bound document across the marble island towards them, "I want to thank you. Your unauthorized yet extensive renovations have significantly increased the market value of my property." I tapped the cover of the document. "This is the official appraisal report conducted last week." I watched their faces. Kai frowned, looking confused. Jordan's smug smile widened a fraction, a predatory gleam in her eyes. She clearly thought this was the prelude to me capitulating, perhaps even offering them a bonus for their vision. She reached for the report. "So," I continued, my voice dropping a notch, losing any hint of warmth it might have feigned earlier. I slid a second document across the island. This one, a standard legal form. "Effective the 1st of next month, your rent will be adjusted to reflect the current luxury market rate for such a beautifully renovated home." I paused, letting the words sink in. "That will be $3,500 per month." Their smiles vanished. Instantly. Utterly. Jordan's jaw quite literally dropped. Her perfectly lipsticked mouth hung open in a silent "oh" of disbelief. Kai went pale, his eyes widening as he stared at the new lease agreement I just presented. Before either of them could recover enough to speak, I pressed on, my voice like ice. Or, of course, I added, sliding a third document, the purchase offer, towards them. You have another option. You can purchase the property from me. I gave them a thin, humorless smile. Given your substantial investment and clear emotional attachment to the place, it only seems fair to offer it to you first. I tapped the purchase offer. The price, based on the new appraisal, which reflects all your wonderful upgrades, is $475,000. Silence. A thick, stunned, suffocating silence filled the room. The only sound was the faint hum of the brand-new, top-of-the-line refrigerator. Then chaos erupted. What? Jordan finally shrieked, her voice cracking. She shot to her feet, knocking her bar stool slightly askew. You can't do that. $3,500 a month? Are you insane? It's the current market rate, Jordan, I replied calmly, though my heart was hammering. For a unit of this quality in this location with these finishes, your finishes, I might add. But we did all the work. Kai stammered, his face a mask of bewildered outrage. We paid for it. You can't just charge us rent on our own improvements. Actually, Kai, you made improvements to my property. I corrected him, my voice still level. Improvements I never asked for, never approved, and certainly never agreed to pay for. You presented me with a bill for nearly $100,000. I'm merely adjusting the terms of your tenancy to reflect the new reality you've created. This is outrageous. It's unfair. Jordan was practically screaming now, her face flushed an ugly red that clashed horribly with her cashmere sweater. We're family. You're supposed to help us, not extort us. Extort you? I raised an eyebrow. I believe you were the ones who presented me with an unexpected six-figure bill after conducting major renovations without my permission. I'm offering you to pay the fair market rent for the luxury apartment you've designed for yourselves, or buy it at its fair market value. A value, I remind you, that you yourselves established with your contributions. Kai was shaking his head, looking utterly defeated. We don't have that kind of money, Alina. You know we can't afford that rent. We can't afford to buy it. His voice was a desperate whisper. Then perhaps you should have considered that before you decided to play real estate developer with my assets, I said, my patience wearing thin. The cold fury was back, bubbling, just beneath the surface of my calm demeanor. Jordan screeched, You're evil, Alina. This is our home. Her eyes blazed with a mixture of fury and panic. I met her furious gaze, unflinching. No, Jordan, this is my house, which you treated like your personal ATM and showroom. You made your choices when you forged ahead with this ridiculous, unauthorized renovation. You made your choices when you expected me to just gratefully pay for your lavish tastes. Now you have new ones to make. I stood up, collecting my copy of the documents. You have 30 days to either sign the new lease agreement or accept the purchase offer. If neither of those options works for you, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. I walked towards the door, leaving them standing there amidst the splendor they had so arrogantly created, their faces a mixture of shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. The silence that followed my ultimatum was more satisfying than any shouting match could ever have been. The 30 days that followed my ultimatum were a maelstrom. My phone blew up with panicked calls from Kai, his voice alternating between pleading and accusing. Alina, you can't be serious. We'll be homeless. How could you do this to your own brother? Jordan, after her initial outburst, resorted to a barrage of texts. They started demanding, You will regret this, Alina. We have rights. Then shifted to bargaining. Okay, what if we pay you back for the renovation over time, like a tiny bit each month, and you keep the rent the same? And finally devolved into desperate, tearful, Please, Alina, we made a mistake. A huge mistake. Don't do this to us. We'll do anything. They tried to rally the family. Of course. My mother called again, her voice tight with distress. Alina, Philip and I are very concerned. Kai is beside himself. Jordan is a wreck. Can't you find it in your heart to compromise? They're offering to pay you back eventually. This time I was prepared. Mom, I said calmly. Did Kai tell you they'd been planning this for over 6 months? Did he show you the dream home project folder Jordan kept, detailing how they were going to present me with the bill for their upgrades? Silence on the other end of the line. I'm emailing you copies, Mom, you and Dad, so you can see the full picture. I sent them the evidence. The invoices, the email drafts, the whole sordid plan. When Mom called back later, her tone was subdued. Oh, Alina, I had no idea it was so calculated. She still tried a week, but they're young. They make mistakes, but the conviction was gone. Even she couldn't defend this level of premeditated deceit. Dad, true to form, said little, but I could tell he was shocked. Kai and Jordan scrambled. They couldn't afford the new rent, not even clothes, and getting a mortgage for nearly $500,000, especially when they were already carrying the secret debt from the contractors they'd hired for my house, was an impossibility. Their frantic attempts to find a financial loophole, a sympathetic lender, or a rich relative to bail them out all failed. On the 29th day, a moving truck pulled up to the duplex. I didn't go over. I didn't need to. My lawyer had already informed theirs that I expected the property to be left in pristine condition, as per the terms of their original, albeit verbal and now thoroughly violated, agreement. They complied, probably on legal advice, or perhaps holding on to a sliver of hope that a demonstration of good behavior might make me relent. It didn't. Amara helped me do the final walkthrough after they'd gone. The place was immaculate, spotless. Every marble surface gleamed. Every high-end appliance shone. It was also eerily empty, stripped of all their personal belongings, all traces of their occupancy. All that remained was the monument to their greed and my victory. Wow, Amara breathed, looking around the cavernous, empty kitchen. They really did number on this place. Expensive, but wow. Yep, I said, running a hand over the cool marble island. And now it's going to make me a tidy profit. I put the unit on the rental market the very next day at the full $3,500 rate. It was snapped up in less than a week by a young doctor and her architect husband, who adored the modern, luxurious finishes. They signed a 2-year lease. The last I heard through the family grapevine, Kai and Jordan were crammed into a tiny, run-down 1-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. The kind of place they'd probably sneered at 5 years ago. Their relationship, already strained by Jordan's expensive tastes and Kai's spinelessness, was reportedly crumbling under the weight of their self-inflicted financial disaster and the mountain of debt they still owed to the contractors. Apparently, those meticulous records Jordan kept didn't extend to actually paying all the final bills once it became clear I wasn't going to. My relationship with Kai is fractured, maybe irreparably. He avoids my calls and family gatherings are tense. My parents are still walking on eggshells around me. A mixture of residual disappointment in Kai and a new, weary respect for me. It's not perfect, but a huge weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I stood up for myself. I drew a line in the sand, and when they stomped all over it in diamond-studded stilettos, I made them pay the price. The financial gain from the increased rent is undeniably satisfying. It's more than covering the mortgage and expenses. It's actually building my savings at a rate I'd only dreamed of. But the real satisfaction, the deep, quiet contentment, comes from the karma. They thought they were so clever, so entitled, so much smarter than hardworking, sensible Alina. They thought they could take and then demand more. Instead, they dug their own gold-plated ditch, and I simply handed them the shovels and let them lie in it. Some might call it harsh, but as I cashed that first new rent check, all I could think was that they had every chance to be grateful, to be respectful, to be decent. Instead, they chose greed. And greed, as they learned, has a very steep price, especially when you try to send the bill to someone else. So, tell me, after hearing my story, what's your take on family boundaries and financial responsibility? Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family over money or property? Share your experience in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what you think.